Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're setting our sights on something absolutely fundamental, I think maybe often overlooked, in the grand tapestry of life on Earth. We're looking at the incredible sort of microscopic factories hidden within every single plant.
Right.
We're going to pull back the curtain on how plants, these seemingly, static green things, actually engineer their own food and energy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Not just for themselves, but really for nearly every living organism on this planet. So get ready to see the green world around you with maybe new eyes, because what these biological powerhouses do is truly astounding.
It genuinely is. At its heart, we're really talking about two core biological processes, photosynthesis and respiration.
Okay.
They are, in many ways, kind of mirror images of each other. One building up, the other breaking down.
Right. Opposites but connected.
Exactly. Yet they are inextricably linked. Understanding this dynamic interplay, it isn't just about botany. It's really about grasping the very essence of how life sustains itself and how our atmosphere is constantly being sculpted.
I'm always amazed by the elegance of nature's designs. So let's start with photosynthesis. When we talk about plants, we often hear them called autotrophs. And what's really fascinating is what that truly implies: self-nourishing. Unlike us, plants don't hunt or forage. They literally create their own complex food molecules from, well, simple ingredients. So how exactly does a plant manage this feat?
It's a marvel of biochemical engineering, truly, photosynthesis, right? It comes from the Greek photo for light and synthesis for combining.
Wow.
It's the process where green plants harness solar energy, they capture light, and with it they convert carbon dioxide from the air and water from the soil into simple sugars, like glucose.
Glucose, okay.
And from there, they can then transform those simple sugars into more complex, sort of storable carbohydrates like starch. It's essentially sunlight transformed into chemical energy.
Wow. It sounds like the ultimate sustainable energy recipe.
Yeah, sure.
So what are the essential ingredients a plant needs to, cook up this food?
You've got it. Think of it as like a 4-part recipe. First, water, right? Absorbed through the roots from the soil.
Okay, water.
Second, carbon dioxide, which they take in directly from the atmosphere.
From the air.
Third, chlorophyll, that incredible green pigment found within the leaves.
The green stuff.
And finally, the power source, energy from sunlight. Each one is absolutely non-negotiable for the process to occur.
And if the leaf is the kitchen for this process, it's certainly not just any kitchen. What makes leaves so perfectly adapted? Why are they these incredible solar kitchens?
Yeah, it's a testament to evolutionary optimization, really. I mean, consider their structure.
Yeah.
The broad, flat surface of a leaf, it's perfectly designed to maximize the area exposed to sunlight.
Makes sense. More surface, more sun.
Exactly. Then there are the tiny pores on their surface, mostly on the underside, called stomata.
Stomata.
These are like microscopic mouths, opening and closing to regulate gas exchange, letting carbon dioxide in, releasing oxygen out.
So they breathe, in a way.
Sort of, yeah. And what's even cleverer is how their little bean-shaped guard cells control these openings. They swell up with water to open during the day, and then become flaccid, sort of limp, to close at night, which conserves water.
Wow, okay. So it's not just a flat surface, it's a finely tuned, breathable system.
Exactly. And inside, the leaf has these remarkable large intercellular spaces, basically air pockets, which ensure carbon dioxide can easily diffuse throughout the entire leaf, reaching every cell that needs it. And then directly beneath the upper surface, you have the palisade mesophyll cells.
Palisade.
Yeah, palisade mesophyll. These are like strategically packed with chloroplasts, those tiny organelles containing the chlorophyll.
Right, the green bits again.
Positioning them to absorb the absolute maximum amount of sunlight hitting the leaf. And finally, you've got the leaf's plumbing system, the veins.
Like in our bodies.
Kind of. They provide a continuous supply of water and minerals through the xylem, and then they efficiently transport the sugars made during photosynthesis to other parts of the plant via the phloem. It's a fully integrated, self-sustaining factory.
That's incredible. So we often hear about chlorophyll absorbing light,
Yeah.
but what actually happens, like chemically, when that sunlight hits the water molecules inside the leaf? What's the fundamental transformation going on?
This is where the magic really gets detailed. The energy from the absorbed sunlight is actually used to split water molecules, H zero.
Okay, splits water.
Right. This initial split gives you hydrogen ions, H+, and hydroxyl ions. From these hydroxyl ions, oxygen is released as a byproduct. That's the oxygen that goes out into the atmosphere.
Okay.
The hydrogen ions then combine with the carbon dioxide that the plant has taken in, and ultimately that forms glucose. CaOH, which is the plant's primary energy currency.
Right, glucose. So what are the end products then coming out of this whole process? Because I know one of them is pretty important for us.
Indeed it is. There are two main outputs. First, there's the glucose, that's simple sugar. A plant can either use this glucose immediately for its own cellular stuff, or it can convert it into insoluble starch for temporary storage.
Like packing it away.
Exactly. When needed, especially at night when photosynthesis isn't happening, this starch is then reconverted back into a soluble sugar, usually sucrose, which can be transported through the phloem to other parts of the plant for growth or long-term storage in roots or fruits.
Okay. And the second product, the important one.
And the second critical product, as you hinted, is oxygen. While, yeah, a small amount is used by the plant itself for its own respiration.
Oh, plants use oxygen too.
They do. We'll get to that.
Glad.
But the vast majority diffuses out into the atmosphere through the stomata. And that is the oxygen vital for nearly all other life forms on Earth, including us. It's an amazing feedback loop.
It truly puts into perspective the phrase, the air we breathe. Wow. Now, what about factors that can, like, speed up or slow down this whole incredible process? Is it always running at full speed?
No, definitely not. The efficiency of photosynthesis is, well, it's a delicate dance between several environmental factors. Carbon dioxide concentration, light intensity, and a suitable temperature are absolutely crucial.
Right.
Too little CO2 or maybe not enough light, and the process just slows right down even if other conditions are perfect.
Makes sense. Limits.
Exactly. And temperature is key because the enzymes, the biological catalysts involved in photosynthesis, they're very temperature sensitive. Ideally, it needs to be below, say, 40 degrees Celsius.
So not too hot.
Right. Go too high. And those enzymes can basically denature, lose their shape and stop working, grinding the process to a halt. Interestingly, too much light can also be bad. It can actually damage the chlorophyll itself. It's all about balance.
Speaking of balance, just like us, plants need a constant supply of energy, right? Not just to make food, but to actually live. They need energy for everything. Growing taller, pushing roots through tough soil, absorbing water.
Absorbing minerals, repairing cells, countless things, yes.
So where do they get that constant internal power if photosynthesis only happens in light?
That's where respiration comes in. If photosynthesis is about building up complex molecules,
Making food.
respiration is about breaking them down. It's the essential process where the glucose, which was created during photosynthesis or retrieved from storage, is broken down to release that stored energy.
Okay.
Some of this energy is released as heat, sure, but a significant portion is captured and converted into a usable chemical form called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP.
ATP. Heard of that?
Yeah. Think of ATP as the plant's instant cash, right? The immediate fuel for pretty much every cellular activity. Glucose is more like its savings account.
Okay, ATP is the cash. So how does the plant get its hands on that cash? Are there different kinds of respiration?
Yes, there are two main pathways. The most common, and by far the most efficient, is aerobic respiration.
Aerobic, like exercise, meaning with oxygen.
Exactly. It absolutely requires oxygen. In this process, glucose is completely oxidized, fully broken down, yielding carbon dioxide, water, and a substantial amount of energy. About 38 molecules of ATP per glucose molecule.
Wow, 38. That sounds like a lot.
It is, relatively speaking. This is the powerhouse mode for most plant cells, running all the time.
Okay, and what happens if oxygen isn't available? Like maybe in waterlogged soil or something. Does the plant just shut down?
Not entirely. It has a backup plan, though less ideal. If oxygen is absent, plants can switch to anaerobic respiration.
Anaerobic, without oxygen.
Right. This is much less efficient. Glucose is only partially broken down. It releases far less energy, maybe just 2 ATP molecules per glucose.
Only 2, compared to 38.
Big difference. And in plants, this anaerobic process produces ethanol, alcohol, and carbon dioxide as byproducts.
Ethanol.
Yeah. You see forms of anaerobic respiration, famously in yeast when making bread or alcohol, but also in plant roots, in waterlogged soil, or sometimes inside dense tissues. So while it's a survival mechanism, it's definitely not the preferred or most productive way for plants to generate energy.
Okay.
So in essence, plant respiration, whether aerobic or anaerobic, involves taking in oxygen if available, burning their stored food, releasing energy as ATP and heat, and producing carbon dioxide and water as end products.
So we've got photosynthesis, which makes food and releases oxygen using CO2 and sunlight, and respiration, which uses that food and oxygen to release energy. and produces carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
At first glance, they seem almost like polar opposites.
They are in many ways, and that's precisely why they form such a perfect dynamic duo for life. Let's just lay out their key differences clearly.
Yeah, let's compare them.
Okay. In terms of food, photosynthesis synthesizes or builds food.
Yeah.
Respiration breaks it down.
L-verse break. Got it.
For gases, photosynthesis uses CO2 and releases oxygen. Respiration uses oxygen and releases carbon dioxide.
Opposite gas exchange.
Right. Their location within the plant also differs. Photosynthesis is basically confined to chlorophyll-containing cells, specifically inside those chloroplasts.
Only the green parts.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But respiration, that occurs in all living cells of the plant, day and night. Even the roots buried underground that never see light are respiring.
Oh, okay. All cells need energy all the time.
Exactly. Which brings us to time. Photosynthesis only happens during the day when sunlight is available. But respiration, that's happening constantly, 247, because plants always need energy to live.
Day and night.
And finally, the energy exchange. Photosynthesis captures and stores energy from sunlight to build compounds, while respiration releases that stored energy in a usable form, ATP, by breaking compounds down.
Okay, that clarifies the contrast. This brings us to a really interesting point, something many people might have heard, almost like an old wives' tale. The idea that you shouldn't sleep under a tree at night. Is there any actual scientific truth to that, based on what we just discussed?
It's a great question, and it perfectly illustrates their interplay. During the day, right, plants are photosynthesizing like mad. They're releasing loads of oxygen.
Good for us.
And also providing a cooling effect through transpiration and water evaporation. So daytime under a tree, great, beneficial.
Right.
However, once the sun sets, photosynthesis stops. No light, no photosynthesis.
Makes sense.
But respiration, as we just said, continues 24/7. So at night, plants are only respiring, meaning they're taking in oxygen from the air around them and giving out carbon dioxide.
The opposite of daytime.
In terms of net gas exchange, yes. So while the amount of CO2 produced by a single tree is highly unlikely to be harmful in an open space.
Right, it's not like it's suffocating you.
No, not at all. But the underlying scientific principle that the net oxygen-CO2 exchange reverses at night because photosynthesis stops but respiration continues, that part is absolutely correct. It gives that old belief some, scientific grounding.
Huh. I love how these complex biological processes have these real-world connections, even for, a peaceful night's sleep. But how do we know all this? I mean, it's happening invisibly inside leaves. What's fascinating is that scientists, often with pretty simple tools historically, rigorously demonstrated these processes. What are some of the classic experiments that crack the code?
Oh, yeah. These experiments are really elegant in their simplicity and truly foundational. Take, for instance, proving that chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis.
How'd they do that?
Early botanists used variegated leaves, like from a coleus plant, those leaves with green and white patches.
I know the ones.
Right. So after exposing the plant to light for a while, they'd take a leaf and do a starch test on it using iodine. And only the green areas, the parts with chlorophyll, turned that characteristic blue-black color, showing starch was produced there. The white patches, they remained unchanged, yellowish-brown from the iodine.
So no chlorophyll, no starch, even with light.
Exactly. A clear visual confirmation of chlorophyll's vital role.
That's brilliant. Okay, so that confirmed the green pigment. But what about the energy source itself, light? How did they prove that was essential?
Another clever experiment was designed to show that light is necessary. Researchers would take a plant and first destarch it, basically keep it in the dark for a day or two so the leaves use up any stored starch.
Okay, start with a blank slate.
Right. Then they'd cover a portion of one of its leaves with something opaque, like black paper cutouts, maybe in the shape of a letter or a pattern, blocking out light just on that section.
Okay.
Then they put the plant back in sunlight for several hours. Afterwards, they'd detach the leaf, remove the paper, and do the starch test again.
Oh.
And only the parts of the leaf that had been exposed to light turned blue-black. The area that was covered by the black paper, no starch. It beautifully demonstrated that light is the indispensable energy source.
Wow. So visual. Okay, and once they knew light and chlorophyll were involved, how did they confirm that starch was actually the end product being made? How do you test for starch in a leaf?
Good question. For that, they would take a green leaf that had definitely been in sunlight. First, they'd boil it in water for a bit. This kills the cells and breaks down the cell walls, making it easier for chemicals to penetrate.
Okay, boiling.
Then the tricky part. They had to decolorize it, Get rid of the green chlorophyll because that would mask the starch test color. They usually did this by boiling the leaf gently in methylated spirits or ethanol carefully, often using a water bath because alcohol is flammable.
Right, remove the green.
Once the leaf was almost white or pale yellow, they'd rinse it and spread it out, then add iodine solution. The dramatic blue-black color change across the leaf was undeniable proof of starch presence, confirming it as a key product of photosynthesis.
These really are fundamental discoveries laid out so clearly. What about the oxygen we breathe? How did they manage to prove that plants were actually releasing oxygen gas?
The famous hydrilla experiment vividly shows this. Hydrilla is an aquatic plant, lives underwater. So, you place some hydrilla sprigs in a beaker of water under an inverted glass funnel. Then you put an inverted test tube, completely filled with water, over the stem of the funnel.
So you can trap any gas coming off the plant.
Exactly. Now, you place this setup in bright sunlight. Pretty quickly, you'll see tiny bubbles rising from the cut ends or leaves of the hydrilla and collecting at the top of the inverted test tube, pushing the water down.
Gas bubbles.
Gas bubbles. Once you've collected a decent amount of gas, you carefully remove the test tube, keeping it inverted. Then you take a glowing splint, like a matchstick you've blown out, so it's just glowing red, and you insert it into the mouth of the test tube. If the gas is oxygen, the splint immediately reignites, bursts back into flame.
Wow, the classic oxygen test.
The classic test, providing clear, dramatic evidence of oxygen release during photosynthesis.
Fantastic. And finally, to complete the picture with respiration, how do we show that plants are producing carbon dioxide when they respire, not just when they photosynthesize?
Right. To confirm that carbon dioxide is produced during respiration, scientists often compare two setups. You take two flasks. In one, you put some actively respiring material, like germinating seeds. Seeds that have started to sprout are respiring heavily.
Okay, living, breathing seeds.
Exactly. In the other flask, you put the same type of seeds, but you boil them first to kill them. This is the control. Dead seeds don't respire.
Makes sense. Control group.
You seal both flasks and leave them for a few days. Then you test the gas inside each flask. A common way is to bubble the gas through lime water, calcium hydroxide solution.
Lime water. What does that do?
Lime water turns milky or cloudy white in the presence of carbon dioxide. So when you test the gas from the flask with the germinating respiring seeds, the lime water turns milky.
Wow.
But when you test the gas from the flask with the boiled dead seeds, the lime water stays clear. No CO2 was produced.
Undeniable proof. Respiration makes CO2.
These experiments, they seem simple now, but they were revolutionary, weren't they? Providing concrete evidence for these invisible processes.
Absolutely. Foundational work. So what does all this mean for you, the learner, as you look at the green world around you? It means those seemingly passive plants are, in reality, incredibly sophisticated chemical factories and just tireless powerhouses. They are constantly at work, not just sustaining themselves, but through these really intricate processes, directly sustaining almost all life on Earth. I mean, every breath you take, every bit of food you eat, every piece of wood or paper, it has its roots, quite literally, in this amazing biological dance.
It really does. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, think about the global implications. The delicate, continuous balance between photosynthesis consuming CO2 and releasing oxygen and respiration doing the reverse on a planetary scale. That's constantly regulating our atmosphere. It shapes our climate, maintains the very air composition that allows complex life, like us, to thrive.
It's a planetary life support system.
It truly is. And, this raises an important question, maybe something to think about. Given the critical role of these processes, how might our human activities, things like extensive deforestation, industrial emissions changing CO2 levels, or even the way we practice agriculture, how might these profoundly disrupt this fundamental planetary balance?
Yeah.
Think about the complex ripple effects, the impact that changing the number or health of green leaves worldwide could have, how our actions impact their silent, ceaseless work, and ultimately the stability of the system we all depend on. It's worth considering the consequences.